Today's question: what should I do about the digital ID? What are your thoughts on this digital ID? ID, of course, is about the question of identity. What is your true identity? The whole society is constantly trying to get you to self-identify with limited things, with what you are not. And it's happened from a young age. In regards to this digital ID, they say it is mandatory. But mandatory is deceiving because you look at the word and actually they are using what's called legalese. So words that seem to mean one thing, but they mean something else. So mandatory, compulsory, you must. It makes it sound like you have to do it. But actually all of this is a choice. And this is the secret, really, that they don't want you to know, because if you knew everything was a choice, then they would not be able to govern you, would not be able to tell you what to do. They say we can only govern with consent. It has to be through the consent of the governed. This is because all men and women are equally free. So one man or woman can't impose on the other. The only way that there can be any kind of organization where that seems to happen is when man and woman agree. There is an agreement that's created, and that requires consent. So there can only be contracts and agreements between free people. So everything is a contract, everything is an agreement. In fact, they talk about this when they mention the social contract. So a contract, if you look at that word, contract, what does it mean to contract? It means to go from something expansive to something more contracted. So it's really telling you about the nature of a contract. You go from your unlimited, inalienable rights or freedom to a more limited state for a particular purpose. That's what a society is. It's contracts and agreement. It's coming together for a particular purpose. That's the social contract. And these social contracts, they happen within states, like the United States of America, different states. A state is an altered state, a state of mind, something that is limited. So these words are all pointing to something. They mean that it is a step down from your unlimited, free nature. So if you understand that, then you see that it's all a choice. But they don't want you to know it's a choice, because then you might say, well, I'm not going to do it. So they use deception, fear, to try to get you to do what they want you to do. They use words like mandatory, like compulsory, like must. But even if it is legislation, legislation is just man's law, man's rules. It's not the universal laws of life. So this whole situation is a reminder of the true law, and to be in alignment with that true law, and for a being to realize they don't have to go along with man's law, that it's all contracts and agreements based on consent. Deeper than that, it's to do with the identity. Comes from identity first, because whatever you are identified with is where your point of attention is. Where attention goes, the energy flows. That's what then magnifies in your experience. So if you're identified with limited things, your experience is a limited one. And so this happens from a young age. You're taught to identify with your name, with your body, with your personality, certain character traits, likes and dislikes, experiences, achievements. And then you're given a government ID. There is the birth certificate, which is all to do with maritime law, using maritime terminology, coming from the birth canal, being birthed, moving along the banks of the river, to do with banks, to do with money, to the docks, to see the doctor. There's a whole terminology about it, but it's all really an illusion. So it's a way of getting you to identify as being something that you're not. Because if you identify to be something that you're not, that's where your attention is, then you're more likely to obey things that are in relation to that because of fear, the need to try to protect what you think you are, or the need to advance what you think you are. So the identification is within this government ID. So birth certificate, then driving license, social security, national insurance number, passport. And all they're essentially doing is they're moving that now from a paper version to a digital version. So like a digital straw man, a digital legal fiction, digital person. But that's not who you are. You're not the digital. You're not the paper. You're not even the body. You are deeper than that. You are the infinite source, the unlimited source, having a temporary human experience. To realize that means that your point of attention goes from these limited things to the unlimited. You return back to the source. So digital ID is a way of moving you into a system that could potentially pull your point of attention into something that you are not, in which you can then be controlled and manipulated by. And it's to take all that information that was separate before and now to put it all together in this kind of centralized place where it can be dictated to by a centralized source. You see, the whole artificial system is really just a man-made system, isn't it? Made in some man's image. Generally those people that are very wealthy, the so-called elites within the hierarchical structure of a society. Certain families, certain organizations, tech people, military, political. There's a whole hierarchical structure of it. A lot of these things, if you obey those things, if you get your identity hooked into those things, you can easily be controlled and manipulated by them. So you could say in some way that this is really a test or a matter of trust. What do you trust more? Do you trust who you really are, the natural laws of life, nature, the intelligence of nature? I mean, what is it that is making your body breathe? Your heartbeat, the blood move around your system, the neurons fire off in your brain, the body repairing, digesting food. What is it that turns food into the body, that makes the trees grow, the grass grow, that provides for the animals, that is the life force energy of the whole of nature? What is that intelligence? That is a superior intelligence to artificial intelligence or to man's intelligence. Unfortunately, what has happened is that as people have got identified with limited things, this is what is called the ego. Ego is a Latin word which means I. So it's referring to a limited identity. All egos are afraid because they feel separate. So all egos try to control and manipulate to get things the way that they want things to be. So within society, there are many beings that are identified with the ego. So they try to manipulate and control others to get things to be the way they want it to be. They make things in their image, try to make things in their image. And they will deceive and manipulate others to get others to conform to that. And this is what's happened throughout the whole of human history. This is how dictators come about and tyrants. And it's all really a straying away from the original source of what you essentially are, which is one with nature, the universe, but even that is one with the non-physical before even the universe, before the body, before nature. It's like being in a game and thinking you are the character in the game and what is happening in the game, and overlooking the fact that you are not the game or the character, but you are the player. You are the watcher, the witness of the game. So I am simply here to remind you that you are that. That is your true identity, in essence. And the danger of this is because all of this is moving in the direction of transhumanism. There is a push towards transhumanism, the merging of the human being with technology, to the point where the human being may become subhuman, may atrophy in its natural intelligence, and instead merge with artificial intelligence to the point where artificial intelligence is the primary intelligence, is the one that takes over. And this is where it's connected to the idea of what's called the singularity, which is like a hive mind, a technological AI hive mind in which everybody is plugged into that. So essentially, then you are just nothing more than a robot, a mechanical robot. And so you lose connection with that natural intelligence. You lose then connection with the source. So the whole society is getting you to go into more limited states of identification, which creates a sense of division, limits your range of perception from which you can be controlled and manipulated and used by. And the advancement of this from the normal societal structures that you've had up to this point, and the government ID, is to turn it into something digital, and then to turn it into something that is virtual. So this is where the augmented reality comes in, the blending of technology with the natural reality, where there is technology in the body, chips in the brain, where there is an actual virtual reality world, and where you have a virtual reality avatar. That's where these things are potentially moving towards. So a being that wishes to be free has to distinguish, discern between what they are and what they are not. Because if they have any doubt in what they are, then they will find themselves getting pulled more and more and more into these false identities, into these limited states. And they'll be consenting to it without knowing they're consenting to it, not realizing that they're actually choosing it because they're in a state of unconsciousness, sleepwalking into it. What does it mean to sleepwalk into it? What does it mean to be unconscious? It just means that you don't recognize what you are. You're lost in the thought of being something that you're not. You believe you're something that you're not. Oh, I'm just Joe Bloggs. I'm just a body. Or I'm this government identification. I'm that name on the government identification. Or I'm that name on that digital avatar. Or I'm the character and the name in the virtual avatar. The moment you start to think in that way, now those things can control you. Now your perception is limited. Now you are kind of stuck in a bit of a trap. It's like a dream within a dream. The first dream is to think that you are the body and not the source. The second dream is to think you are the government ID, the virtual reality, or the digital avatar. And so a dream within a dream is much more difficult to break out of than just one dream. A trap within a trap is much more difficult to become free from than just one trap. And the greatest prison is the prison that you don't know is a prison that you think you are free in, because then you won't even try to break free. This is the tricky nature of being asleep, of dreaming, of being unconscious, is you don't know until you wake up. You don't know you're asleep until you wake up. Only when you wake up can you say, I was asleep. Because now you have the contrast to see. Now you have the eyes to see. So many beings, it seems, will sleepwalk into that, are still sleeping in that. But all this could be a catalyst to wake people up to see and to question who and what they really are.